This film is sponsored by New York Life and its dedicated agents, proud sponsors of NFL Team Highlight Films. New York Life, the company you keep. In their third straight trip to football's biggest game, the Buffalo Bills were once again unable to achieve their ultimate dream. But in this latest disappointment came one play that symbolized the character of these Bills. With his team trailing by 5 touchdowns, number 82 Don Beebe ran for dear life to prevent what would have been a meaningless Dallas score. Was it desperation, sheer adrenaline, or much more that drove Don Beebe and the Bills in 1992? The Bills' 1992 road to the Super Bowl was their most difficult of all. From the start of the season, they were targeted as the team to beat in the AFC, yet they absorbed every hit, withstood every injury, and believed in each of their hearts that they would somehow overcome. In fact, they taught us all to never stop believing.
Here we go. 32 yards from the center of the field. Adam Lingner ready to snap it back. It's 38 all. Bills can win it here. Wright puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good! And the Bills have won it! The Bills have won it! Incredible! What a comeback by the Bills!
We've heard the words gut check and character, and if this team didn't show it, hey, any doubters, come on aboard the bandwagon. I think we'll all jump on it now.
You gotta believe. And the Bills did.
Bills fans once again had plenty to sing about in 1992.
We want you to know, Bills are gonna go.
For the 5th straight season, Buffalo's fun-loving faithful led the NFL in total attendance.
We will beat all the best. Buffalo's the best.
Okay, guys, here we go. Great day for football.
In Buffalo, the NFL's brightest stars came to life each week. Stars like All-Pro defensive end Bruce Smith, who returned from an injury-plagued 1991 season to record a team-high 14 sacks. The fans were also treated to explosive stars like linebacker Cornelius Bennett and a shooting star and quarterback Jim Kelly, each named to his 4th Pro Bowl. And there was Buffalo's all-time leading receiver Andre Reed, who juked and jammed his way to his 5th Pro Bowl. The Bills had mega stars with mega mass, like Jim Richer, Will Wolford, and number 75, Howard Ballard. And of course, there was running back Thurman Thomas, a star of the greatest magnitude. Thomas was one of 11 Bills named to the Pro Bowl, and on opening day, his brilliant season got off to a blazing start, with 4 touchdowns against the star-struck Rams.
On 3rd and 9 at the 10-yard line, here's a direct pass to Thurman Thomas at the 5. He goes in for the touchdown. And he ran up the middle and went in standing up for his 4th touchdown, count 'em, of the afternoon.
Thomas's 4 touchdowns tied a club record. But later in the day, fans were also treated to a record-breaking performance by a future Hall of Fame receiver,
Here's Reich dropping back. Fakes once, rolls out to the right, now throws. And Lofton, does he make the reception?
Yes.
He makes the reception. That should be it. And they're all out on the field. All of the Bills are out there. James Lofton is the all-time yardage receiver in the NFL, breaking Steve Largent's record.
The Bills' roster was filled with playmakers and record breakers, and they needed to tap all their resources the following week in San Francisco.
Kelly backpedaling, looking, throwing, and he's got a man there. It's the tight end, Metzelaars, at the 20, at the 15, at the 10, at the 5, and he is in for the touchdown.
Tight end Pete Metzelaars caught 2 scoring passes as both teams combined for more than 1,000 yards of offense. For the first time in league history, neither team attempted a punt, and it was Thurman Thomas's go-ahead fourth-quarter score that helped the Bills outlast the 49ers. The following week, the red-hot Bills really caught fire against the Colts.
Time to turn the heat up.
Pro Bowl safety Henry Jones, who would tie for the NFL lead with 8 interceptions on the year, turned the heat up by becoming the first Bills player to return 2 interceptions for scores in the same game.
Back to throw. Here's Tupa looking over the middle. It's intercepted at the 25-yard line. It is Jones again at the 30, the 35, the 40. Up the midfield, down the sideline to the 40, down to the 30, and he is down to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. It is a touchdown for Henry Jones. How about that? What a tremendous play.
1 week later, the Bills' defense continued its onslaught in New England. Number 94, Mark Pike, recorded his first NFL sack, while nose tackle Mike Lodish scooped up his first NFL touchdown.
Second down and 6, a fumble by Millen, a loose ball, the Bills pick it up, and it is Mike Lodish running in for the touchdown. Mike Lodish, the Lodi.
At 4-0, it appeared the Bills once again would have an easy road to a division title and the postseason. In Week 5, Bills fans welcomed the undefeated Dolphins to a battle for first place. But what appeared to be another routine step to a division title turned out to be a rude awakening for Buffalo. The Bills suffered their worst non-strike home loss since 1984, and the following week, they were upset by the Raiders. But instead of being disheartened by the losses, the Bills learned from them. And on a Monday night, in their following game, those lessons were put to the test. Trailing by 3 points with just over a minute to play, Jim Kelly battled the clock and the crowd noise to give his team a shot at victory.
Kelly has just 4 seconds to take this snap. Gets it off in time. Backing up. Throws. Touchdown! Thurman Thomas caught the ball.
It was no surprise that Thurman Thomas was the go-to man in the clutch. No player in the NFL has become more important to his offense. And no player has logged more yards over the past 4 years. 1992 was Thomas's finest season yet, and with it came his most remarkable achievement to date. In gaining 2,113 total yards, Thomas led the NFL in combined yards from scrimmage for the 4th straight season. It is a feat never before accomplished in the NFL. Not by Walter Payton, not by Gale Sayers, not by Jim Brown. Thurman Thomas has now taken his place among the great backs of all time. And while his tremendous talents have become well documented, the Bills still possessed a few secret weapons they'd like to go to every now and again. In Week 10, guard Mitch Farrat caught one of his 3 touchdown passes on the year to spark a win over the Steelers and propel the Bills into their critical Monday night rematch with the Dolphins.
It's the big time. Time to go. Let's go home.
Once again, the Bills fell behind the Dolphins early. And trailing 14-3 in the second quarter, they needed to reach deep inside and rediscover their winning character.
Hold on to our boys, let him be crazy!
Kicker Steve Christie held on to his poise as he booted a club record 54-yard field goal to cut Miami's lead to 8. It was just the spark the Bills needed.
Let's go to work! Let's go to work!
Buffalo's defense held the Dolphins to a mere field goal in the second half, as aggressive new starters like number 53 linebacker Marvcus Patton fueled the Bills' comeback fire.
Dennis Davis is his running back, and Davis will try it, and he's in for the touchdown!
Kenneth Davis scored twice, and his second touchdown put Buffalo ahead to stay. The 8-2 Bills were back on a roll and once again making heads spin around the NFL. Buffalo appeared ready to wave goodbye to the rest of the division as they had finally gained sole possession of first place in the AFC East. By week 12, no team in football was on a more powerful stampede than Buffalo as the Bills ran their winning streak to 5 by running roughshod over the Falcons. Thurman Thomas and number 23 Kenneth Davis each ran for more than 100 yards in the first half alone as the Bills totaled an incredible 315 rushing yards. But just when it seemed that Buffalo fans could beat their chest with pride, the Bills beat themselves in 2 straight losses to the Colts and Jets. Buffalo was once again learning that no victory is automatic.
With a 16-week schedule, it's so hard to really motivate yourself every week to that big game level. And I think subconsciously you relax a little bit, and before you know it, you get beat. And I think that's what happened to us.
Throughout the season, the Bills danced between the shadows of defeat and the warm glow of victory. And in the process, they strengthened their bond and toughened their character.
We've been talking, we've been doing it all year. I don't care if it calls a fumble, but I want 11 guys on the ball. I want Steve Christie on the ball. Everybody hit him, let's go. Steve Christie, you make a tackle. Let's go.
Pro Bowl MVP Steve Tasker epitomized Buffalo's battle-hardened spirit, and others like Chris Hale, Mark Maddox, and Carwell Gardner followed his lead. No matter how many shots the Bills took in 1992, they could always be counted on to hit back twice as hard. Veterans like Darryl Talley taught how to never let up. And youngsters like number 29 James Williams and defensive end Phil Hansen took that lesson to heart.
The gloves are off. Marino probably wants to throw on first down. He will. He looks. It's batted into the air and intercepted by the Bills. It is picked off on a great play by Phil Hansen.
These Bills somehow found ways to reach the unreachable. And in Week 15, Buffalo once again came up with balls that should never have been caught. Safety Mark Kelso pulled in 3 interceptions, and the Bills' offense pulled out all the stops.
Touchdown, baby. Good play. Check this out.
Second down and about 5, and here's a reverse coming up to Reed. Reed and a lateral to Kelly and a flea flicker. And wide open is Beebe at the 20, at the 15, at the 10, at the 5, and in for the touchdown. How do you like that? A reverse lateral flea flicker.
Jim Kelly helped the Bills improve to 10-4 and clinch their 5th consecutive playoff appearance. And the following week, it was nose tackle Jeff Wright who helped the defense overcome some long odds in New Orleans. With Smith and Bennett sidelined by injuries, Wright picked up the pace with 2 of the Bills' 4 sacks. Substitutes like Keith Willis also kept the pressure on, and cornerback Nate Odoms came up with his 5th interception of the season. Still, the Bills had to fight back from a 13-3 deficit. And while Carwell Gardner battled his way to the goal line, it was Thurman Thomas who scored twice and delivered the knockout blow.
And here is the run by Thurman, trying to get to the corner flag. Touchdown! He is in for the score, I believe. Yes, touchdown for the Bills.
The Bills' gut-check victory earned them a season sweep of their 4 NFC opponents. And they needed just one more win in their season finale to clinch their 5th straight division title. In front of a national Sunday night audience, the Bills' regular season unceremoniously crash-landed.
Kelly puts the tight end in motion. He's going to throw. Looking, and they got him sacked back at the 14-yard line.
Kelly is down holding his knee. He is in a lot of pain.
And there is great concern now out on the field and at the Bills sidelines. Jim Kelly is injured.
The Bills lost not only their starting quarterback in Houston, but their division title as well. Buffalo suddenly was cast in the unexpected role of wild card, and in the upcoming playoffs, they were about to be tested like never before.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's playoff time. The Bills and the Oilers ready to get it on in an AFC wild card game. And the road to the Super Bowl, Project Pasadena, starts here at Orchard Park, New York this afternoon.
It is impossible to anticipate when history is about to be made. And on this January day, no one could have imagined the events which were about to unfold. A game so unbelievable that it couldn't help but forever impact all those involved.
We want to win a championship in your heart. Everybody pick it up just a little bit higher level. And we're going to take it all the way this year now. Let's go.
In an almost surreal first half of football, Houston scored on all 4 of its possessions. And at the start of the second half, things only grew darker for quarterback Frank Reich and the Bills. Buffalo trailed 35-3. Never had an NFL team come back from as great a deficit, especially with its starting quarterback on the sidelines. What the Bills needed was nothing short of a miracle, and what they got was something straight from over the rainbow.
Now they overshift, may give it to Carwell here. No, it's Davis running left, trying to get to the corner flag, and he is in for the touchdown. So the Bills have finally scored. With 8:52 left in the third quarter, they go 50 yards. Four-man rush, sails it long. Oh, Beebe at the 10, at the 5, in for the touchdown. John Beebe was wide open, a blown assignment there.
Suddenly, Rich Stadium has awakened.
Buffalo had indeed awakened. It only seemed like a dream.
4:29 left in the third. Here is Reich, looking to throw, rolls out, throws, down there is Reed at the 5, in for the touchdown. Andre Reed has scored. And now the Bills are back in this game.
As this game swung like a tidal wave here at Rich Stadium.
And now the Bills trail by 11 points, 35-24. You gotta believe if you're a Bills fan. 4:21 left in the third quarter. Don't go away and fasten your seatbelt.
We can overcome, baby. We can overcome this.
4:07 to play in the third quarter, the clock running. Here's Moon to throw, looking around, throws, and it's deflected and intercepted by Henry Jones at the 40, at the 30, the 25, and down he goes to the 23-yard line. The crowd in a frenzy.
Henry Jones set the Bills up once again, but it was a critical fourth down gamble that helped Buffalo maintain momentum.
Reich is going to the shotgun. 4th and 5 at the 18. There's the snap. He backs up. He looks. He throws. Reed, touchdown! Reed for the touchdown. Unbelievable! The Bills are back in it now. Big time. It is pandemonium here at Rich Stadium. Pandemonium all over.
Good job, good job. Hey, we still got one more. Still got to get one more.
Men named Wolford and Hull, Parker and Richer and Ballard poured their guts out up front. And a man named Reich reached into his heart and passed his way into folklore. The Bills were climbing an impassable mountain, and with just over 3 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, that 32-point deficit officially disappeared.
3 wide receivers, 2 to the right. Back to throw. He looks. He throws. Touchdown! Andre Reed for the touchdown. The Bills have scored. They have scored to take the lead with 3:08 to play in the game. Andre Reed, 3 straight touchdowns, and the Bills are in the lead with 3:08 to play. It is bedlam. It is pandemonium. It is fandemonium. It is fantastic.
Listen to this crowd.
Can we get a do you believe it, Van?
Do you believe it?
They don't want it, baby. They don't want it. They don't want it, baby. They don't want it.
The Oilers did send the game to overtime, and it was there that Nate Odoms made the biggest interception of his career.
Looking around, throws, intercepted by the Bills. It is picked off by Odoms.
Odom's interception had the Bills poised for victory and realizing what they were about to accomplish.
Greatest comeback in playoff history. It's on! It's on! Below!
Now you talk about character. This is one. This is a team, damn it. One yet.
Bills can win it here. Wright puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. They win it 41-38. Incredible. What a comeback by the Bills.
Look at the fans pouring onto the field and the mob scene of Steve Christie.
It was more than a victory. It was a triumph of Buffalo spirit. In overcoming a 32-point deficit, Frank Reich and the Bills produced the greatest comeback in NFL history. The emotion of the win propelled Buffalo through the rest of the playoffs. The Bills raced almost untouched through their final steps to a third straight AFC championship. But make no mistake, there was nothing easy about Buffalo's long road back to the Super Bowl. The 1992 Bills wrote a remarkable story of perseverance. And along the way, they learned that success is nothing to be taken for granted. It is something that can only be attained through the collective heart, drive, and character of the men striving for it. They lived a heartfelt season of hard-earned lessons, one which taught us all that you've gotta believe.
Hi, I'm Steve Sable. As you've just seen, the Buffalo Bills' latest road to the Super Bowl was almost too incredible to believe. And their unbelievable win over Houston in the AFC playoffs was the greatest comeback ever. Still, the Bills were once again defeated in the Super Bowl for the 3rd year in a row. And now, you have to wonder, where does this team go from here? Has their final championship opportunity come and gone? Or will the Bills be back for yet another shot at that elusive Super Bowl title? Well, let's take a look at what may lie ahead for the Bills in 1993.
As the Bills enter the new season, one has to wonder which of the memories from 1992 will have more of a carryover effect into 1993. Will it be the afterglow of their incredible comeback win over Houston in the AFC playoffs? Or the scars of their third straight Super Bowl defeat? One thing's for certain, the Bills aren't ready to change their formula for success just yet.
One of the big mistakes I believe that can be made is because you lose a big game that's very much in the national spotlight, to say, we've got to make changes. To me, that's panic. We've won a lot of games doing things the way we do it. We evolve each year. That'll continue to be our approach.
Though their philosophy won't change, the Bills are moving forward into new horizons, as the Buffalo landscape will be without the likes of receiver James Lofton, guard Mitch Farraut, and tackle Will Wolford in 1993. Also gone are linebackers Carlton Bailey and Shane Conlon, and the Bills will need new stars to step in and fill the void. Buffalo already believes it does have a star in the making in third-year defensive end Phil Hansen. Last season, Hansen was second on the team with 8 sacks and seemed only to get better in each of his 16 starts. Hansen's Pro Bowl potential makes him a perfect bookend to perennial All-Pro Bruce Smith. At 30, Smith is still one of the most dominant defensive players in the game, and he should continue to be a force in 1993. While the Bills will continue to look for Smith to ignite the defense, they can also count on Darryl Talley to spark the team both on and off the field.
All right, let's go! Get ready! All right, let's get up and get ready!
With Talley and number 97 Pro Bowler Cornelius Bennett, the Bills continue to boast a solid nucleus of linebackers, one which also includes talented youngsters like number 53, Marvcus Patton. The secondary will look for continued improvement with Henry Jones and number 37 Nate Odoms anchoring Buffalo's last line of defense. On offense, even a line without Will Wolford should remain one of the league's best at protecting its quarterback.
Kelly under center, goes back, looks, throws to the end zone, touchdown! It is scored in there by Andre Reed for the touchdown.
Andre Reed should continue to be Jim Kelly's #1 target, but in 1993, Kelly will have an additional deep threat in former Colts standout Bill Brooks. Reed, Brooks, and Don Beebe could give the Bills as deadly a combination through the air as they have with Thurman Thomas and Kenneth Davis on the ground.
He can't handle 1-2, boy. He can't do it by himself. He can't do it. Hey, take 46 to win, baby. Take 46. He can't do it by himself. Got to have a 1-2 punch. Take 46 to win.
Kenneth Davis for the corner flag. He dives, touchdown. The Bills have scored. The Bills have scored.
Davis and Thomas have become the NFL's best 1-2 punch, but it is still Thomas who delivers the most knockout performances as arguably the #1 back in football. Thomas has led the NFL in combined yards from scrimmage for the past 4 seasons, and there's no reason to believe he can't run that remarkable streak to 5 in 1993. In Thomas, Buffalo possesses football's most dangerous offensive weapon, and as long as he's in the lineup, the Bills should continue to field one of football's most electrifying offenses in 1993.
Here's a run by Thurman at the 10, at the 5, and he is in for the touchdown.
With such marquee names as Thomas, Kelly, Reed, Smith, and Bennett, the Bills still feature one of the NFL's most star-studded teams. And with all that talent, it isn't hard to imagine Buffalo earning a 4th straight AFC championship and taking one more shot at football's biggest prize.
They realize it's difficult to get to the Super Bowl. They worked hard to get there. We got there and still didn't succeed in our task, and I believe they'll do the same thing in preparing for this year's season.
They've come up short in 3 straight Super Bowls, but the Bills and their fans aren't ready to be counted out just yet.
You know, you can't blame Buffalo fans for being starved for a Super Bowl title. After all, many of them aren't old enough to remember the Bills' last league championships, which came in the AFL in 1964 and 65. Those were Buffalo's glory years, before Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, and Bruce Smith. And right now, let's take a look back at 2 of the players who helped bring those championships to Buffalo. One of them, cornerback Butch Byrd, intercepted more passes and returned more of them for touchdowns than anyone in team history. The other, quarterback Jack Kemp, would go on to a successful career in politics. Here's a look at Butch Byrd and Jack Kemp, a couple of Buffalo classics.
When Butch Byrd began his first season in 1964 with the Buffalo Bills, he was already the largest cornerback in the league. But bigger did not necessarily mean better. The 215-pound rookie was easy pickings for experienced AFL receivers, and unless Butch adjusted, he would clearly become a bird in danger of football extinction.
He was really on the verge of being cut. In playing the man-to-man, Butch, as were the other corners, were playing basically off rather than bump and run. And within the last day or so that he was expected to be there, he decided, to hell with this, I'm not going to play back, I'm going to go play bump and run. And he went up and got on people and got in their face and started playing this aggressive bump and run. And he had such good quickness and he was such a powerful man that when he got his hands on a wide receiver, they couldn't get away from him. And he went from a guy who was virtually going to be cut to a guy who ended up being a Pro Bowl player in that league.
Butch Byrd had the knack of that bump and run like nobody else could do it. He would time, like a receiver be looking at the ball because he can't hear the snap. He's looking at the ball, not looking at Butch. But when the ball is snapping, the receiver look up, pow, hit him.
It was very unusual for a guy for that size to play cornerback, and I think he was one of the largest cornerbacks ever played the game. I would think today Butch Byrd would have they would probably beef him up another 20 pounds and he would be an outside linebacker. He hit like a linebacker and he had a good speed for a cornerback. With his size and today's weightlifting and conditioning, he could have been an outside linebacker. He was a big, strong guy and who loved to hit.
Byrd was one corner who was good hit and good field. Opposing quarterbacks seldom tested Butch, but when they did, they were truly sorry.
Butch usually played 7-8 yards off the line of scrimmage, and plus he played the right side corner, which also gave him an opportunity to be able to play play with a little bit of recklessness because the quarterbacks were right-handed. And when they had to take a step over to throw, it gave him an extra step to be able to recover on the ball, which made him very successful.
Of all Byrd's successes, none was sweeter than his performance in the '65 championship game against the cocky and confident Chargers.
And I'd gone to a party because I was with the San Diego Chargers for 4 years before that. And Don Norton was there. And he said, I don't care who you think that big balloon head Byrd on the corner. If you think he can cover, you're crazy. Norton's telling me, he says, I can beat him. I'm going to score at least 3 touchdowns on this guy. Norton ended up catching 1 pass for 6 yards in the ball game. And Byrd just nailed him.
Butch and the Bills shut out San Diego. And then Byrd finished off the Chargers with the longest punt return in league championship history.
Butch Byrd gathers in the ball on his own 26, gets a block from Ed Witowski, and he's off down the sideline. Paul McGuire steamrollers John Hadel and Dave Desturi, and Byrd is in for a 74-yard touchdown.
In 7 seasons, Butch made 5 All-Star teams and never missed a starting assignment. And when it came to pass thievery, Byrd was the word. More than 2 decades since his retirement, Butch Bird still has more lifetime interceptions than anyone who has ever played for the Buffalo Bills. Like other American success stories, the career of Jack Kemp sprang from modest beginnings, originating in pro football's equivalent of the log cabin.
In 1957, the Detroit Lions, I was 17th, I think, round draft choice. Buddy Parker was the coach, and Bobby Lane and Tobin Rote were the first two quarterbacks. So I was on the block early in my career, and Buddy Parker went to Pittsburgh, and a couple weeks later took me with him. So I ended up in Pittsburgh for a year and a half with Earl Morrill, Lenny Dawson, and myself, and Buddy Parker, and all of the rookie experiences. It was great.
I knew he was different in those days because most guys, you know, when they would read, what would they read? They'd read the sports pages or the comic section or something like that, sports magazine. He was reading political books and things like that with no pictures in it. So I knew at that time he was destined for big things.
But the Steelers' Buddy Parker did not quite agree with that assessment and released the studious but seldom used Kemp after just one season.
I went from the Steelers to the Giants. I punned a little bit and hanging on by the skin of my, teeth. So when the American Football League came along, more teams, more players, more jobs, more opportunities. Sid Gilman took me to the Chargers. I didn't start out very quickly, but Gilman stuck with me. Maybe he didn't want to. I never knew what went through his mind, but he did. And we had some good football teams in San Diego. I could throw a football. That's about all I could do at the time. But I think Coach Gilman was able to convert a strong arm into hopefully an accurate one as well.
I tell you, he had an arm. The guy could throw the ball through a building. And the first couple of years, he had one speed. That was a problem. I mean, receivers would be coming back saying, my God, this guy's going to rip my hands apart.
Once Kemp was able to put touch in his tosses, the Chargers became one of the AFL's most successful teams. In each of his first two seasons, Kemp guided the team to the Western Division title. And with young and talented players around him, Kemp's future seemed as bright as the San Diego, California sun. But in 1962, a serious hand injury sent Kemp to the sidelines. Due to technicalities with injured waivers procedures, the Chargers' Sid Gilman was stunned to learn he had permanently lost the services of his starting quarterback. Jack Kemp was forced to leave his native California to join his new team, the Buffalo Bills.
He came to us with a bum hand. We stayed with him for about 6 or 7 weeks until he began to heal. But about that time, when Jack became well, the fortunes of the Buffalo Bills began to change.
With their new quarterback, the Bills became winners, but Kemp, more accustomed to the wide-open style of the Chargers, occasionally disagreed with Saban's more conservative strategies.
Jack Kemp as a player was at times very stubborn. I remember one game in which I insisted that he throw a particular pattern. Nothing seemed to happen. I said, Jack, do you mind if we discuss this at halftime? He says, well, fine, Coach. I'd be very happy to discuss it with you. I said, Jack, I want you to throw 52. I don't want to say it again. And he looked at me and says, but, and I picked him up. It happened to be an open locker behind him. And I shoved him into the locker. And I says, Jack, do you understand me? He says, yes, sir, Coach. And we threw that pass in the second half. I think he must have rolled up over 100 yards just with that one particular pattern.
Kemp's determination was also his greatest attribute, as the Bills would discover for 3 straight championship seasons.
In '63, we lost to Boston. We got booed. And I went up to Coach Saban, and I said, Coach, next year we're going to win. And you and I are going to come out in the middle of the crowd, and we're going to have our moment in the sun. And don't forget that.
In 1964, Kemp beat his former team, the Chargers, 20-7, giving the Bills their first ever league title. A year later, Buffalo beat San Diego again for their second AFL crown. Kemp became a household name and a respected figure throughout Western New York, quarterbacking the Bills for the remainder of the decade. But by 1969, new challenges awaited.
Now, I had spent 13 years throwing a football, and I'll be honest, whether my arm or elbow had started to give out, I couldn't throw as well as I thought I wanted to. I was president of the Football Players Union or Association. I was an activist. I would have been called a clubhouse lawyer if I'd been a baseball player, because I loved organizing people and talking about issues and ideas. So the Republican Party said, hey, Kemp, why don't you run for Congress? And I thought about it. And if I'd lost, I would have come back. I had a no-cut contract. I could have come back and exercised the no-cut clause. In fact, I've had a lot of fun over the years telling people that if they didn't like me to Congress, I'd come back and play quarterback for the Bills, and that's how I got sent to Washington. It was another manifestation of a lesson I had learned early in my life, to be there at the right time and to take advantage of opportunities. And I had the great blessing and opportunity to serve the people of Western New York for 18 years in the United States Congress.
Jack Kemp, a football and an American success story, with more chapters still waiting to be written.
This crowd is not leaving. They're going to stay and have a party without the party favor. They are still in their seats and singing and shouting and cheering, and it was just an unbelievable game. Well, I know I've never seen a comeback to match this one. Unbelievable.
All we need is 47 small miniature trophies because they all deserve them. Thank you very much. Right here, baby. You guys went 9 quarters.